And to discuss the nation's security challenges, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the Director, Defense Information, Major General John Enenche. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you.
All right, now security challenges have different manifestations, as we've seen, and the president did mention some of them in his speech, and obviously he's talked about reinforcing the fight against the insurgency. What can you say to us tonight to quell those fears, as we've seen the insurgents and all those attacks coming up once again?
Well, I want to assume that you are talking about the terrorist attacks here and there in the northeast, particularly around the epicenter in Maiduguri. Like I've said before, it is not unexpected, being that they have been degraded, decimated, and really busted at Camp Zero and other sites there through the air bombardments and the rapid attacks and raids by the members of the military, particularly the army. So you see them spreading out like ants that have been busted from an anthill. And then that one again has been supported by the unending collaboration by insiders and then sympathizers amongst the residents there, or I will call the indigenous, or people who know them very well and who have not been forthcoming with information. However, I want to assure the general public and Nigerians that measures are in place to begin to take on them and begin to take them out. However highly placed anyone is, or any insider or any collaborator is, we are on top of the situation and we are now getting our information to begin to handle them appropriately. Well, in addition to the fact that we are really collaborating with the opinion leaders, and some of them who have been very supportive, they have been cooperating with us really, and they are now beginning to come up with information in the area of attempting and making concerted effort to get the people de-indoctrinated from what they have come to live with over the years. About Western education is bad, and if you go out to terrorize people, in the course of it, you get martyred, you will go to paradise. That we are working on that as in that area, categorically and then very seriously with the opinion leaders and people that are involved. So I want to assure the general public that let them keep faith with the armed forces of Nigeria and with the forces in the northeast, that sooner than later, terrorism will be a thing of the past in that general area.
The president also did talk about hate speech on social media. Are you finding social media to be a challenge for you as well in this fight?
Well, like all over the world, right from the civilized world, the first world, social media is a challenge. It's a double-edged sword, and we are also having a bit of it. Imagine when the president came back and addressed the nation, not up to 30 minutes later, a fake speech of the commander-in-chief was being circulated in order to do what? To derail the people on what if you are not very sharp, and if you didn't listen to the speech or you don't have a copy of it like I had it almost immediately, you wouldn't know. So looking at it from that perspective, it is a challenge everywhere. But what are we doing? In the military particularly, we are now taking on it more seriously than ever. We have our strategic media centers that monitor the social media to be able to sieve out and to react to all the ones, and the ones that will be anti-government, be anti-military, be anti-security. We tackle them appropriately with appropriate responses. But ahead of that, we are also proactive. And then we have measures in place, scientific measures, to be able to sieve this information and also to get to the public and let them know that some of this information they are getting, they are not genuine, they are not true, and their objectives are anti-corporate existence of this country. So those are the measures we are taking, and we are aware of it, that it's actually a challenge, but we are living up to the challenges and facing them squarely and tackling them appropriately.
And speaking of the challenges, there are different sorts of challenges that we're having. The herdsman-farmers clash is still very much an issue. It hasn't been resolved. Is there anything the military is doing differently to allay the fears of the farmers on their own side at this time? Is there anything you're going to do in a different way to handle that challenge?
Yes, definitely we are doing something. We are activating our quick response groups, just like the mobile strike teams that you have in the Northeast. We are activating them. And then we are now changing the states of our readiness at the various military formations across the country. In addition to the fact that most of the civil authorities, particularly the state government, they are very cooperative. And that is where we come in to encourage the populace and the farmers that they should not have worries so much that we are on top of the situation as it is now. We have changed our states of readiness, like I said. We are activating our quick response forces, and all the operations within the states are also being put at alert to ensure the safety of the farmers.
Is that also the case with the kidnapping, which is also rampant across the country at the moment? I mean, I know you have talked about your state of readiness, but what are you doing exactly to handle that, beyond letting us know that you've changed one or two things in your formation?
Yes, well, I want to tell the public that they should believe in the integrity of the military. Before I say that, it is not all information that are necessary to be divulged on the air like this, because it will not even be to our advantage and to the safety of the populace. But I assure you that there are measures in place. Now, look, for instance, like in Kogi State, a lot of things has been done in the area of anti-kidnapping. The same thing with the South-South. You talk about River State, you talk about Bayelsa State. Those are measures, there are measures in place. Reviewing our capacity, reviewing our equipment holding, reviewing our collaboration with the people, and also encouraging the people to come out with more information on the activities of these kidnappers who are not living mostly outside the populace, the residential areas. So we are working on that area specially and seriously to ensure that it is checkmated.
All right, finally now, if you could request for something to help you with your operations in terms of funding, would you say that you're properly funded at the moment and that you have all the equipment that the military needs to tackle all the various sorts of challenges that we're having at the moment? Finally now.
Yes, with all sense of seriousness and then sincerity to the government, they have funded us appropriately, adequately, commensurate with what we need. But like every other thing in the world, there's nowhere, even in the United States of America, it is never enough. Nobody has ever gotten to the end of whatever you wanted. So what military funding is all about is that it is as a need arises. Because the equipment you have today will not necessarily be useful for you tomorrow, because of the dynamics of warfare, the dynamics of conflict. That is the way it is. But at every point in time, what you have, you are actually giving, and that is the situation that we have in Nigeria. So we are not being starved of what we need at any point in time at all, but we're always making requests because of the dynamics, because of the changes.
All right, Director Defense Information, Major General John Eneche, thank you for joining us on the News at 10 tonight.